But when you might have to hit it this time.
Okay, I've been waiting to do
There we go.
that.
There we go. Just your presence. All you have to do. Yeah.
Sometimes it comes up as no. All right, I'll be ready next time.
Good afternoon. It's Friday, January 19th. We have Vermont State University in here today. We're very happy to have you here. We have the Chancellor, Elizabeth Mock. Is that how we say that? Malk, then we want that correct. And we have interim president, David Berg. And you want to introduce your team, or do you want to introduce them as they come? What would you like to do?
I can introduce everyone. This is Sharon Scott. She is our Chief Financial and Operating Officer for Vermont State Colleges System. Drake Turner, our External Governmental Relations Director. Sarah Truckle, who is the Vermont State University's Vice President for Business Operations. And then Lynn, who is our the chair of our board of trustees and also the legislature.
Well, we want to thank you guys for taking the time. We're really honored to have you here. I don't know that if there's a bigger committee in this building that really wants success from you folks. Yeah, I know myself personally, and I'll take a moment of privilege, I guess, to tell about what I believe that you bring to the state of Vermont and the people that live here, the opportunities that you give. Not everybody is fortunate economically to go to the universities that charge just a lot more, which I believe that you charge less and bring as much. And I just know so many success stories that have come from the state college system. People that would never have had the chance for anything. And then they go there, and the pride that they feel, and the education that they get, and the opportunities that they are able to go and go out into the world and do better. So thank you for coming. We're very excited to have you here, and we're excited to hear what you have to say today.
Well, we want to thank all of you. I'm only in my third week here at the position, but I'm so excited to be here just to talk about some of the things that we've been working on. I am Elizabeth Malk. I have been in higher education for almost a quarter of a century now. I have worked at both public and private institutions in Pennsylvania and Kansas. And the students that I have served over these last 25 years are similar demographically to those in the Vermont State Colleges system, typically around 50% Pell eligible, around 50% first in their family to go to college. And frankly, it is because of the appropriation that the legislature has provided to us and the support that all of you have given us throughout the years that we have been able to make higher education affordable for every Vermonter. And that to me is so very important. My passion over these last 25 years has been access for students who might not otherwise go to college. I've been the person who tries to remove barriers, whether they be academic, social emotional barriers, or financial barriers. And frankly, in the last several years, it definitely is financial barriers that are stopping many students from going to higher education. Going on to higher education. The Vermont State Colleges system is in a process of transformation so that we can assure affordable public higher education for every Vermonter, meeting students where they are with quality, affordable programs, both degree programs, certificate programs. And I think one of the very interesting pieces of this system is, and I call it a gem because of this, is this notion that a student can get a credential at any one of our institutions, whether that be at CCV or VTSU, and can continue to stack throughout their career so that they can continue to have really transformational opportunities for them. So that is what motivates me. I can tell you it's why I get up every day. It's why I'm so excited about this position. And really, I genuinely want to thank all of you for all of the support that you have provided to the Vermont State Colleges system over these last couple of years, because it is for those students that we are doing this.
Okay, next slide.
But just before we start, I just want to give a brief overview of the system. And so this next slide is what is known in math as a Venn diagram. So this sort of shows the composition of the Vermont State Colleges. The Community College of Vermont that is led by Joyce Judy and Vermont State University, which is currently led by Dave Berg. And then we have shared services, which are services that both institutions can use, and we can leverage the power of the two systems together in order to really get affordable education for our students. And the head counts, I think, are very interesting. Just notice that the Community College of Vermont is actually 55% of our students as a head count, and 45% comes from Vermont State University. So both of these two entities do really provide a lot of students into the system. This is a system. I'm the CEO of the system that has about $185 million budget. I direct the activities for the presidents, and I oversee the shared systems. And I also have established external affairs strategies through Drake and that direction. And I'm coordinating the systems academics. And as I mentioned, our students are about 50% Pell eligible and around 50% first in their family to go to college. And those two statistics, I think, are very important because it demonstrates that we have students who are entering a system that aren't necessarily savvy to some of the pieces of it. And that's why we have to really ensure that we are working strategically so that the students can navigate those systems as they move on. As I mentioned, the Vermont State College system is composed of two entities: the Community College of Vermont, which has, as you can see in the photo, sites throughout the state, and then the Vermont State University. Vermont State University, as you are all aware, is now in its inaugural year, and I will talk a little bit more about some of those data points in a minute. We are organized by a board of trustees. The Board of Trustees consists of 4 members of the General Assembly, 5 governor appointees, a student trustee, 4 trustees appointed by the board and the governor. The Board of Trustees is the fiduciary of the Vermont State Colleges. It sets academic, administrative, and financial policies. It defines strategy and supervises the chancellor. The legislative trustees are Representative Dickinson, who's here, she's our board chair, Representative Durfee, Representative Maslin, and former Representative Flipper. The leadership of the Vermont State Colleges is me, along with Joyce Judy, as I said, president of CCV, and David Berg, who's sitting here next to me, the interim president of the Vermont State University. He also was a longtime employee at the Johnson campus. So how many students is it that the Vermont State Colleges impacts in a year? For the 2022-2023 academic year, we impacted about 20,000 learners. 15,000 of those approximately were students who were in 4 credit courses. These are head counts. So a student taking at least 1 class. And another 3,700 of workforce learners. Those would be students who are receiving certificates, not for credit, however. We do have some certificates for credit. And next, I'd just like to get into some recent news. As I mentioned, Vermont State University launched in July, and we welcomed the class of 2027. The inaugural class had 1,400 undergraduate students. The Vermont State University did indeed meet its undergraduate enrollment target for the fall, so we're very happy with that. And just again, to reiterate the demographics of those students, 52% of those 1,400 undergraduates identified as the first in their family to go to college. 53% are Pell eligible. 19% identify as BIPOC, and 70% of those students are Vermonters. I'm very excited to see over the next 4 years just where all of those students go. I wanted to highlight also today a couple of the very unique and I think promising programs of the Vermont State College system. Vermont State University announced a major expansion to its nursing programs. This really is a testament to the transformation that we've been undergoing. It was made possible by Senator Leahy and this legislature. When completed, the expansion will be an expansion from 676 nursing students to nearly 1,000. We know that there is a terrible nursing shortage in the state. This is a way that we are meeting the workforce needs of today. This is a stackable credential, so this is not necessarily the last certificate or degree that these students will receive. And again, as I mentioned, this is meeting Vermont's workforce needs. Next, the Community College of Vermont and the state of Vermont have partnered for a workforce development for state employees. What this partnership allows is for state employees to get credit for some of the work that they have done throughout their careers. This fall, 20 students enrolled from 12 divisions of state government and earned an average of 45 credit hours in one 15-week semester. That's just tremendous. This represented an average tuition savings of $12,000 and over 600 classroom hours saved per student. We know that experiential learning is so important. This just gives credit for that. This also translated into more than $250,000 of tuition savings for the state of Vermont. This program has been used extensively by students enrolling at VTSU as well, because we know how important receiving credit for prior learning on the job or at home is for our students. The next program that I'd like to highlight is Vermont's Prison Education Program. This allows people who have been incarcerated to get a second chance to learn. This program is for individuals who are incarcerated and for corrections officers. And we are very proud of the fact that one of the things this really focuses on is the literacy skills of these folks to ensure that they have success as they're going through college. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Dave.
Slide up here.
I'll slide it.
Thanks for having us today. And if I could give a brief introduction myself, the chancellor mentioned that I had spent time previously at the Johnson campus. So, the chancellor's starting her third week. I think I'm starting my third month in this role. And there's a lot of great energy right now on our campuses. But I'll just share that I spent 19 years at the campus of then Johnson State. And I think the reason that I was excited about the possibility of coming back here kind of ties into some of the comments that the chair made and the chancellor around the students we serve, because at my time at Johnson, what I experienced were students who had overcome incredible things just to be there. And it actually led to me doing my dissertation studies at the time on successful students from first generation and low income backgrounds. So we're really proud of the work that we do. Wanted to talk through a little bit about some of the transformation work that we're doing at the university and in the system. As you know, since 2020, VSC has been engaged in a complete system transformation effort and really working hand in hand with the state during that time to achieve financial stability, keeping higher education accessible, as discussed in Vermont's rural communities in particular, and to better serve our students in the state. The work's been essential, as you know, and as you probably read and have seen, it's been incredibly difficult. And I think the important thing to know is that from the beginning of this process, we've really maintained a commitment to transparency and accountability as we've been fulfilling our legislative mandate. So where we are today is really a remarkable demonstration of teamwork. And I say where we are today, as I mentioned, starting my third month, the chancellor just starting. So a lot of the groundwork for this work has been laid by my colleagues prior to my arrival, but it's been incredible teamwork, and we know there's much more to do to continue to implement these plans. Won't go through this grid in any length, obviously, but I think probably look familiar. Just want to take a moment to sort of recap the VSC's transformation process this far. As you know, in the fall of 2020, legislature established the Select Committee on the Future of Public Higher Education in Vermont, and their recommendations included consolidating the bachelor's granting institutions into a single university, VTSU, aggressively addressing administrative efficiencies, reducing the structural deficit by $25 million over 5 years, and increasing general fund support by 57.4% to $48 million. And so the board, the VSC board, had adopted these recommendations in the spring of 2023, last spring, and the legislature memorialized them in Act 78 of 2021. Since that time, we've continued the work of transformation. Primary focus really being on kind of righting the ship financially, again, through the creation of VTSU of the university in addressing the academic and administrative efficiencies at the university and in aggressively consolidating administrative services. Last fall, and you probably saw news coverage, VTSU announced 2 plans to address academic and administrative efficiencies. Combined, these 2 plans have reduced our structural deficit by $6.4 million. The academic optimization, and that's the slide you have here, we call it 2.0, has saved $3.35 million by streamlining our academic offerings, reducing the number of academic programs, and increasing the average student to faculty ratios from 1 to 13 to 1 to 18. So still maintaining a small class size and personal connection. It's been a heavy lift, as you can imagine, and it's an ongoing heavy lift. But I think I've really been impressed by what a thoughtful and intentional process it's been. I think we're proud of what we've accomplished, and obviously we remain focused and vigilant as we continue with the implementation work. And we felt it was important, while academic review work is going to be ongoing and will be annual, we felt it was important to do the bulk of that academic optimization work prior to the facilities master planning, because we knew that it would inform the work of our facilities master plan. So looking at the administrative optimization, we've, in that case, really streamlined our administrative, managerial, and clerical functions and realized savings of approximately $3.1 million. That was done through a reduction of 33 full-time positions, which, as you can imagine, was incredibly difficult work. Every level of the organization was looked at when we did that exercise. I think, it's fair to say this puts us in a more nimble and streamlined position in order to be fiscally sustainable now and into the future. And I think it is important to note that 21 of those positions were at the executive, managerial, or supervisory level. So while it's not part of the current restructuring work, future plans around continued fiscal stewardship include a full review of the total compensation to better align and structure and reduce costs, continuing cost reductions for services that are shared across the Vermont State Colleges system, and then anticipated savings that will be derived from our facilities master plan, which is currently under development, and I can segue into talking a bit about that. So in terms of facilities planning, we do want to offer an update on our work on facilities across our campuses, knowing that this work is ongoing, and certainly we will plan to keep you apprised as we continue this work throughout the spring. Again, just a quick reminder of the calendar of the work done to date. Right sizing our infrastructure is an equally important part of realizing financial stability. What we know is that our collective campuses, that the university is overbuilt by at least 30%. And that's something that's an issue on all of our campus locations, and that really needs to be addressed in terms of the quality of the experience for students and also from a fiscal responsibility standpoint. We launched the facility evaluation of facilities in the fall of 2021 with studies on return on physical assets and condition assessments and space utilization. And then created a 10-year facilities plan that we shared, I understand, with this committee in the spring of 2022. Since that time, we've updated our return on physical assets. We've identified underused assets. We've begun survey and deed work for potential subdivisions. We've issued an RFP for a facilities master planner and ultimately hired Dumont Jenks to lead our facilities master plan. So the master plan for Vermont State University launched this past year in 2023. We anticipate the outcomes of that to be that we would identify priority projects for both orderly growth and for divestment, and really having student needs driving that, and community needs, and supporting the university and the system's long-term vision and strategy. So as part of that master planning process, we anticipate that establishing framework to support the decision-making that, again, will directly support the academic priorities that we've defined as part of the academic optimization work that I referenced. So in doing so, obviously, a lot of inputs, critical inputs are needed to frame that work. And inputs to date and moving forward have included the academic optimization plan that I referenced, looking at enrollment and demographic trends and projections, assessing the condition of our facilities, collecting information about the utilization of those facilities, and obviously critically getting input from our faculty, staff, students, alumni, and community members. Here you can see some sample inputs giving, again, examples of the kind of data we're collecting to inform this study. It includes broad demographic information, but also enrollment trends and residency occupancy. Also looking at pretty detailed information about each of our physical campuses, including the overall campus layout and information on things like transportation and parking, all of these that intersect the utilities, the topography of the campus, and its hydrology. So in terms of where we're going from here, really we see the work this spring over the next 4 to 5 months, continuing to have our working group discussions, engaging our broader VTSU community in conversations regarding options and ideas, developing concepts for consideration that would include building in estimates on costs of both investment and divestment, along with return on investment. We'll obviously be reviewing these concepts with our board of trustees and then revising plans as directed from there. And, we'd be remiss to be here if we didn't thank you and take a moment to acknowledge some of the really important work we've been doing thanks to the support of your investment dollars. So I think 2 of the critical projects approved as part of last year's capital bill included structural renovations to address building envelope of Vail Hall, exterior signage for VTSU, and again, the facilities master plan. Pleased to report that all exterior signage has been built and is awaiting installation when weather conditions permit. I don't know when that'll be, but we certainly anticipate that all signage will be in place by commencement in May. The facilities master plan, as noted, is currently well underway, and as part of this work, Vail projects being prioritized as part of space utilization, deferred maintenance, and program optimization work. When this work concludes, we'll take next steps in this project. And we're going to look at some roofs. We shared with you before that maintaining the building envelope, and especially the roof, is of critical importance. So here's an example of roofs installed on 4 buildings, 4 new roofs this past summer. And we installed a transformer at one location. And again, these improvements critical, as you know, and not always the type of thing that attract the donor interest, but are essential to our operations. They were made possible with your investment in Vermont State Colleges. I do want to note that in addition to your generous investments, that VTSU has set aside $4.2 million of its own funding for use on critical projects that are identified as part of this master planning process. And we've also sought and received funding from external sources to help us with these capital investments. The largest of that, we talked earlier about the nursing expansion. Largest is $6.3 million in investment to support the infrastructure around that nursing expansion. So we take very seriously this committee's clear expectation that we bring our own resources to bear on the issues, and you can see that we are doing that. So I want to thank you, and we look forward to working with you in this session and in support of high quality public education. Certainly anticipate digging deeper into a lot of these topics and capital investment needs with you later in the session, as well as in the next biennium. And really hope that we can maintain this as an open and ongoing dialogue, in which case we welcome your questions as we proceed with this work. We'll want to hear from you, and we'll be glad to keep you apprised as work moves forward. So I want to thank you again for your time.
Committee, any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. Thank you for being here. I'm new too, so I wasn't here in the 2022 plan. Just you told us how many positions you reduced, but you reduced it to what? So you had 33 full-time in administration and 26 full-time in academic. Do you know what was the starting number or what was the ending number? I just am curious about the proportion of that. Or just roughly, even, just roughly.
12.6% of full-time faculty and 7.6% of full-time staff.
Okay. And then, so you still have the full-time you still have full-time faculty?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, I mean, there is a trend toward moving toward part-time.
There is a trend towards addressing enrollment challenges. And so the enrollment at Vermont State University and higher education in general follows very closely demographic trends. And this is a realignment to bring us in line with where enrollment is in terms of faculty ratios.
Right.
Students to teacher.
Right. And then, as far as your capital plans, are you looking at possibly using dorms or other similar buildings as housing that you could, sell to another entity or somehow separate from the rest of the campus?
Yeah.
That just seems like a good
Yeah, happy to
opportunity.
speak to that. I mean, we're certainly attuned to the real critical housing needs as a priority in the state right now. So in any place in this planning process where we see opportunities for intersection there, we're interested in looking at that. So obviously, we'll have this planning process for the master planning over the course of the spring. But certainly looking at how we can help meet broader state needs as part of that process.
Sure.
Would be a consideration.
Have you found a need for your own employees, for housing?
I'll defer to
Yes.
Sarah Truckle for more detail. I do know that one of the concerns that's been expressed to me is around, one of the challenges of hiring is employees finding housing in the area. So I imagine the broader scope of wanting to do what we can to increase the housing stock, that it'll also benefit our employee base. I don't know if you want to share more on that.
So we have a number of positions on staff that actually have housing as part of their overall package, so residents, life staff. In addition, post the flooding, we had a number of staff who were displaced, particularly on our Johnson campus.
Okay.
And given the unique nature of Johnson, and we do have college apartments there, which are 50 apartments across that campus, we were able to provide housing for some of our staff. We do have an employee housing policy that allows us to offer housing to staff when we have those functions and capabilities. And there are certain positions that do have that as a requirement of the position.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's a logical, benefit, and then it reduces the pressure on the rest of the market. And then, do you use it solar? I'm just looking at those roofs and thinking solar would be nice. Maybe.
Sarah,
We do have some solar and we are in the process of exploring what that looks like. I can get back to you with the details of which campuses, but it is an area of great faculty exploration as well. So we do have some, and it's certainly something that we've been working with Energy Efficiency Vermont and how do we maximize our efficiency around our utility costs. And as we're looking at master planning, a big part of that is then bringing our infrastructure up and looking at our deferred maintenance to make sure that we're being really cognizant of our utility costs and what that looks like as we move into the next phase.
And it seems like a good place for others to maybe even donate to you because of what you do, being a nonprofit. And then just two more questions. The Springfield campus, I mean, it's CCV and it's a high school and I think it's something else. Is it? I heard that it was not that it was not operational. But is that the case? Because I was just really impressed by the building itself and just the work that was going on there, culinary and all sorts of different. And
That is a
building
technical
materials.
center. We actually have Bob Flint on our board,
Okay,
who is the RDC director and is very
Yes.
much involved with the tech center, and CCD, I believe, shares some of those facilities. Yeah, it's a very unique kind of situation, but Bob Flint is on our board, so.
okay, so it's still going. So
Yeah,
hopefully it was a bad rumor.
no, I don't think it's gone. I think it's still around.
Okay, perfect. And then one other thing, in programs like the nursing program, do you get support from hospitals? Do they provide rooms or materials or
Yeah, I mean, that
medical stuff?
partnering with hospitals is a key component of that program's growth and anticipated growth, right? And I think, And one of the most obvious ways of that are some of the incentives that the hospitals would have for our students in terms of, payment incentives on tuition, deferral, and also, the guaranteed positions upon arrival, and enabling students to be pursuing those credentials while employed. So we have excellent partnerships with area hospitals, and we're attempting to build more of them. And I'm happy, Sarah, if you want to speak to any more specifics.
Sure, so part of the nursing degree program is a requirement for them to meet certain clinical requirements on site in hospitals. And some of that can be done through simulation and some of that has to be done on site. So we partner with all of our hospitals and different healthcare partners to achieve that clinical requirement as part of the degree program through affiliation degree agreements. So our nurses are actually on site. In addition, we've been really working with our hospital partners on how can we create these pathways for our students so that there's a real linkage from the time of admissions into them when they're coming into the workplace, recognizing we have laddered credentials, right? So they may receive their LPN degree, then go to work for a hospital, but they can do their RN degree as online and still achieve that level of education while also working in the hospital. I think really excitingly this year, we partnered with the UVM Health Network in our respiratory therapy program, where we were actually able to not only have a cohort of UVM employees to which UVM sponsored coming into the respiratory therapy program, which has been so critical with the compounding effects of COVID, RSV, and the flu. But they also sponsored students who were not from the network and who were not their employees to come into that program, recognizing the critical need for that workforce, the cost of travelers, and the needs that we had specifically at the network. So we were able to launch a scholarship program as well as have them cover some of our base costs of our programming based on where we had some under enrollment to really put forth that cohort. We also have some specific employer partnerships where we have a CVMC cohort right here in Berlin. We also have a UVM Health Network cohort in Williston. And I believe there's one in the southern part of the state too, just forgetting the hospital, but different hospitals where we directly partner and have cohorts coming from their employees.
That's great. Thank you. I represent Wyndham County and Brattleboro Medical Center Memorial.
Yeah, I just want to
Had a
say,
program like that.
I just want to say not to forget CCD. CCD for many years, and I think they still have it, they had a medical coding project that they worked with Brattleboro Hospital.
Okay.
They taught it at the hospital, they came in and were trained there for a 9-month period and then were automatically hired. Medical coding being a really complex
Yes.
situation for hospitals and anybody in healthcare to get it right. And so they did that through CCD, got a certificate for that. And we have a member of one of the hospital administrators in the state is on our board also, John Tester from Northeast and St. Shasbury. Great.
Thank you.
So we didn't get a chance to introduce ourselves.
I apologize.
That's okay. I'm Brian Collmore, representing the Rutland County Senatorial District, in which Castleton's campus resides. And so I want to express my appreciation as well for all of you attending. Knowing how quickly word spreads in this building and throughout the state, I have a feeling you're all aware of a bill that I sponsored, which I expect was not greeted with great enthusiasm on your side, and I respect that and understand that. And we don't have to get into the specifics of that, but there were 3 provisions of it. And you can all look the bill up and make comments if you so choose. But I'm wondering whether, with your permission, and I'd certainly like to include Representative Dixon, I do have a letter that I received from concerned faculty and staff at the Castleton campus that I'd love to forward to you, Chancellor, and to you, Mr. President, and to Lynn. And again, just hope that you can at least read it and maybe craft a thoughtful response to folks who are legitimately, sincerely concerned about, I think, a lot of different things, the way the merger was rolled out, but aligning with your desire to be openly transparent about everything. I think it's important that you do hear from everybody in that way. So I don't really have any specific questions. I'm assuming the CEO's comment earlier that the higher education demographics reflect the high school demographics. So it always came to me as a kind of a surprise that we didn't sort of foresee this issue many years ago, where in Vermont, the high school population has continued to decline year after year after year. Unfortunately, we're not seeing great results in terms of the scoring of those particular students. But why would it come as a surprise to anybody that at the next step up, there would also be fewer and fewer and fewer students available to enroll? And so I'll just make that as sort of a comment. And
Sure.
I know that, I'm sorry, Chancellor, go ahead.
So if I can jump in, I mean, we have known in higher ed that this was happening. I mean, for the entire 25 years I've been in higher ed in Pennsylvania, I always joke that there was a dean that showed up in my math department meeting one day and he said, in 2010, there will be, that was the year in Pennsylvania, there were gonna start to be fewer 18-year-olds, and what were we gonna do? And frankly, we back then created a lot of very innovative programs. And I think one of the things that the system, and one of the reasons I'm here, is this system has been looking to meet the needs of all Vermonters. I do think that there are a number of opportunities that we've already taken up, but that we can continue to. You know, we all know in Vermont that the high school acquisition rate is very, very high, which is something I think we should all be proud of. The going to college rate is
It's
only
pretty
about
low.
50%. To me, there is an opportunity. Those students probably don't have the same desires that what all of us sitting in this room might normally think for college. And I think that's been one thing to the credit of this institution, and I think the credit to the legislature that saw the support for this institution of how is it that we're going to meet the needs of today's Vermonters in this system. And that's something we've been doing. You heard what Sarah said about the nursing program. So that's something that's important. I would certainly love to get any information that you have from constituents. I'm a big believer in getting a lot of information. I have been impressed by the transparency that this system has used to make these decisions. They're very difficult decisions. And of course, folks are concerned. I think that shows the level of concern that people have for this institution. But I've seen the bill that you proposed, and I think we've got to have everything out on the table and talk about it. For me, and I'm going to tell you, I've only been here 3 weeks, but in my 25 years, I am here because of the students of Vermont. I want to ensure that we are doing what is best for every single Vermonter. And if that happens to mean changing the system or changing the chancellor's position, I think we need to have that conversation, have it openly. And at the end, we need to decide what is it that really will work best for the students of today. I think that's it. And I don't know if anybody else has something else they'd like to add.
Yeah, I regret the timing of that. It was sort of like, hey, welcome to Vermont, by the way, you're fired. That was never my intent. It just sort of happened that it happened at the same time. I've often wondered also, and I think I've mentioned this maybe to Lynn or other folks, we have a kind of a reverse situation at the University of Vermont where they have more kids than they know what to do with, kind of, and they turn a lot of them away. Why at some point in that process doesn't somebody tap them on the shoulder and say, by the way, we can't take you, but here's a whole 5 campus situation where you, if it's Vermont you're really interested in, and you want a small school, maybe a lot of first generation type things, here's another option for you. Apparently we don't do that, and I think that's too bad.
I'm having lunch with the president of UVM
Well-
on Tuesday, so I'll talk to him.
I really think it could help. I really do.
I was gonna also just note, you'll be pleased to know, I think later this afternoon in Education Committee, that there's a joint presentation by representatives from VTSU and CCV and UVM. So I think there is places for collaboration, right? And we need to kind of move away from this inherent sense of competition. There's ways that we can be working more collaboratively to meet the needs as you're speaking of. And
Well, I'll send that missive along, and again, I appreciate you taking time with me.
thank you.
I just want to really thank you folks for coming today. I think at the end of the day, we're going to leave this as a meet and greet for the first time and hear what you're, just to say hi and let you know in a broad sense of how supportive that we want to be of you folks. Madam Chancellor, Mr. President, I think that you both understand, you know, some of the challenges that you face. You seem both very optimistic about it. Think you already know before you even came to Vermont that you had a great group of people. A great group of people need to be led by competent management. And I feel that, we probably have the right people in place for that. And I just want to ask that you do one thing. With all the things that you have going on, I wish that you just go back, and not to say that you haven't been, just go back and be positive. Because you do have so much greatness that you bring to the state, and that we are going to face some hard times. It's gonna be change, and change, nobody likes change, nobody likes it, but let's everybody portray positiveness that we're trying to build something greater than what you found it in, and just to make it happen. And at that, unless there's any more questions, we're gonna say thank you for coming, and I hope you have a great day and good luck. We're really rooting on you, and I think one of the comments that one of the trustees had asked that sat at the table with me, said, what do we have to be to make sure that we have continued funding for you, even more funding? And I think, and I know what my answer was. It says just be viable, be viable, be viable, accountable, open dialogue. Let us know when something bad's gonna happen before it happens, and just do what you know how to do best. And I want to appreciate you folks coming in very much.
We thank you for listening. We appreciate it.